So SESAR is extremely complex, like any ATM modernization program, and we are trying to make things happen. We really launched the technical activities on the 3rd of June of 2009, and from virtually 0 persons working on the program, we arrived today at something like 1,400 people working in SESAR, and we are expecting that by 2011 we will have 3,000 people working in the project. It's a huge program. We have those 3,000 or today 1,400 people working across 17 countries, and we spend a lot of efforts to make those people work as a team, and this is something which is not easy, but I think we are getting there. We have initiated 75% of the program, and you have a list of all the different work packages which are part of this program. We have in total 300 projects which are composing this work program. 220 of those projects have been already started, and we expect by the mid-year or the end of the year at the latest that all the projects will have been launched. This is something which I already said. A project for us is approximately 4 years, an overall budget of 7 million euros, and each project is depending or linked to 5 other projects, which increases the complexity of SESAR. Because if each of the 300 projects could be conducted in isolation, it would be simple. In our case, each of our projects depends on 5 other projects. So we spent a lot of time working on how we can make sure that all the different projects are consistent one with another, and in order to do that, we developed a system engineering methodology. I don't have any slide on that. I think Eric thought it was too technical. In order to make sure that any project can know what is expected from him, and he knows what kind of progress is being made on the other projects which are dependent upon its output. Just to give you some very small examples of what we will deliver in 2010, our first focus is information management. We are living in a world where information management is the key to everything, and we are working on the first possible exchanges of data between the aeronautical information management, that's the AIM, the airport, that means the gate assignment, all the ground processes, passenger processes and so on, and the flight data, which are mainly the aeronautical, the airlines data. We are also working, and those are going to be some of the key deliverables in 2010, on new ways of assigning routes and guidance on the ground in order to have better taxi operations on the ground. And we are going to validate those new techniques at 2 European airports. We are currently in the process of choosing those airports, and what we want to do again is to make sure that everything that we develop is tested and validated in a full operational environment. So I think you were mentioning the trajectory-based operation. Like in the US, this is the center of our operational concept. We aim at performing initial 4D test flights. So it's going to be with test aircraft, test Airbus aircraft, at the end of 2010, beginning of 2011, just to test initial 4D capabilities and see what kind of benefits we can get from there. So that's our target for 2010, 2011, let's say. And last but not least, we want to fast track some of the projects which show immediate benefits. So air is already an example of what we can do in order to accelerate some of the new operational procedures. We also want to work on advanced approach procedures with vertical guidance, and we have 3 validation projects which will aim at implementing those new procedures in Madrid, in Rome, and in Oslo, I think, and this is going to be done in the course of 2010. Last but not least, let me talk a little bit about the future, and I think this is going to be major discussions that will take place in the course of 2010 on what is the deployment of SESAR and how it is going to be funded. There is a proposal which has to be made by the European Commission to the Parliament and to the Council on who should be in charge of the SESAR deployment and what kind of funding mechanism is going to be available in order to do that. The airlines are pushing a lot in order to get a substantial amount of EU funding into the SESAR deployment. We think that it will be necessary to have public money used in order to provide incentives for airlines or for air navigation service providers to equip early with SESAR technologies. And we have already started to lobby or to start to have SESAR in the radar scope of the EU budgetary discussions which are starting now. You know that the EU is deciding now for the budget which will cover the EU operation between 2014 and 2021. It is essential for us that SESAR has its place in those new financial perspectives, and it's not anymore about research and development, it is about deployment, and it is about making sure that by using EU money we can accelerate the change, and that we can, for instance, make sure that if there is a need to deploy a technology, sometimes it's like, you know, I will take the example of replacing the voice telephone by internet. You can only do that when everybody has access to internet. In our field, where we will have to replace VHF radio by data link, we won't be able to do that until everybody has data link. That means that we need to make sure that some of the actors which may not have an incentive to equip early, I'm talking about typically general aviation or others, they may tell us, why would I need to purchase an equipment which is 10,000 euros or something, whereas I don't see the benefit to it. I'm perfectly happy with the current VHF radio. But as long as we have some of the aircraft which are not equipped, we will not be able to really move to the next phase. And this is how I think we could use some of the public funds to make sure that we provide incentives to equip all the aircraft fleets with new types of equipment in order to have economies of scale and to make sure that all the technologies can be deployed.